And he came to the trench as the host was going forth to the fight, and shouted for the battle. Verse 21. For Israel and the Philistines had put the battle in array, army against army. Verse 22. And David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage, and ran into the army, and came and saluted his brethren. Verse 23. And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words. And David heard them. Verse 24. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him, and were sore afraid. Verse 25. And the men of Israel said, Have ye seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel as he come up. And it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king, will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. Verse 26. And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, What shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living God? Verse 27. And the people answered him after this manner, saying, So shall it be done to the man that killeth him. Verse 28. And Eliab his eldest brother heard, when he spake unto the men. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and he said, Why camest thou down hither, and with whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride and the naughtiness of thine heart, for thou art come down that thou mightest see the battle. Verse 29. And David said, What have I now done? Is there not a cause? Verse 30. And he turned from him toward another, and spake after the same manner. And the people answered him again after the former manner. Verse 31. And when the words were heard which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul, and he sent for him. Verse 32. And David said to Saul, Let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. Verse 33. And Saul said to David, Thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. Verse 34. And David said unto Saul, Thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. Verse 35. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Verse 36. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God. Verse 37. David said moreover, The Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion, and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, Go, and the Lord be with thee. Verse 38. And Saul armed David with his armor, and he put an helmet of brass upon his head. Also he armed him with a coat of mail. Verse 39. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he essayed to go, for he had not proved it. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David put them off him. Verse 40. And he took his staff in his hand, and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag which he had, even in a scrip, and his sling was in his hand. And he drew near to the Philistine. Verse 41. And the Philistine came on and drew near unto David, and the man that bare the shield went before him. Verse 42. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, and ruddy, and of a fair countenance. Verse 43. And the Philistine said unto David, Am I a dog, that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. Verse 44. And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field. Verse 45. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. Verse 46. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee, and I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. Verse 47. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord sabbath not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. Verse 48. And it came to pass, when the Philistine arose, and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hastened and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. Verse 49, And David put his hand in his bag, and took thence a stone, and slang it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. Verse 50, So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine, and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. Verse 51, Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine, and took his sword, and grew it out of the sheath thereof, and slew him, and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. Verse 52, And the men of Israel and of Judah arose, and shouted, and pursued the Philistines, until thou come to the valley, and to the gates of Ekron. And the wounded of the Philistines fell down by the way to Shaaraim, even unto Gath and unto Ekron. Verse 53, And the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistines, and they spoiled their tents. Verse 54, And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his armor in his tent. Verse 55, And when Saul saw David go forth against the Philistine, he said unto Abner, the captain of the host, Abner, Whose son is this youth? And Abner said, As thy soul liveth, O king, I cannot tell. Verse 56, And the king said, Inquire thou whose son the stripling is. Verse 57, And as David returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, Abner took him, and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. Verse 58, And Saul said to him, Whose son art thou, thou young man? And David answered, I am the son of thy servant Jesse the Bethlehemite.
Chapter 18.
Verse 1, And it came to pass, when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. Verse 2, And Saul took him that day, and would let him go no more home to his father's house. Verse 3, Then Jonathan and David made a covenant, because he loved him as his own soul. Verse 4, And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was upon him, and gave it to David, and his garments, even to his sword, and to his bow, and to his girdle. Verse 5, And David went out whithersoever Saul sent him, and behaved himself wisely. And Saul set him over the men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all the people, and also in the sight of Saul's servants. Verse 6, And it came to pass as they came, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, that the women came out of all cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul, with tabrets, with joy, and with instruments of music. Verse 7, And the women answered one another as they played, and said, Saul hath slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. Verse 8, And Saul was very wroth, and the saying displeased him. And he said, They have ascribed unto David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed but thousands. And what can he have more but the kingdom? Verse 9, And Saul eyed David from that day and forward. Verse 10, And it came to pass on the morrow, that the evil spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house. And David played with his hand as at other times. And there was a javelin in Saul's hand. Verse 11, And Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will smite David even to the wall with it. And David avoided out of his presence twice. Verse 12, And Saul was afraid of David, because the Lord was with him, and was departed from Saul. Verse 13, Therefore Saul removed him from him, and made him his captain over 1,000. And he went out and came in before the people. Verse 14, And David behaved himself wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him. Verse 15, Wherefore when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he was afraid of him. Verse 16, But all Israel and Judah loved David, because he went out and came in before them. Verse 17, And Saul said to David, Behold my elder daughter Merab, her will I give thee to wife. Only be thou valiant for me, and fight the Lord's battles. For Saul said, Let not mine hand be upon him, but let the hand of the Philistines be upon him. Verse 18, And David said unto Saul, Who am I? And what is my life, or my father's family in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king? Verse 19, But it came to pass at the time when Merab Saul's daughter should have been given to David, that she was given unto Adriel the Mahalathite to wife. Verse 20, And Michal Saul's daughter loved David, and they told Saul, and the thing pleased him. Verse 21, And Saul said, I will give him her, that she may be a snare to him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him. Wherefore Saul said to David, Thou shalt this day be my son-in-law in the one of the twain. Verse 22. And Saul commanded his servants, saying, Commune with David secretly, and say, Behold, the king hath delight in thee, and all his servants love thee. Now therefore be the king's son-in-law. Verse 23. And Saul's servants spake those words in the ears of David. And David said, Seemeth it to you a light thing to be a king's son-in-law, seeing that I am a poor man and lightly esteemed? Verse 24. And the servants of Saul told him, saying, On this manner spake David. Verse 25. And Saul said, Thus shall ye say to David, The king desireth not any dowry, but 100 foreskins of the Philistines to be avenged of the king's enemies. But Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines. Verse 26. And when his servants told David these words, it pleased David well to be the king's son-in-law. And the days were not expired. Verse 27. Wherefore David arose and went, he and his men, and slew of the Philistines 200 men. And David brought their foreskins, and they gave them in full tale to the king, that he might be the king's son-in-law. And Saul gave him Michal his daughter to wife. Verse 28. And Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David, and that Michal Saul's daughter loved him. Verse 29. And Saul was yet the more afraid of David, and Saul became David's enemy continually. Verse 30. Then the princes of the Philistines went forth, and it came to pass after they went forth, that David behaved himself more wisely than all the servants of Saul, so that his name was much set by.
Chapter 19.
Verse 1. And Saul spake to Jonathan his son and to all his servants that they should kill David. Verse 2. But Jonathan Saul's son delighted much in David. And Jonathan told David, saying, Saul my father seeketh to kill thee. Now therefore I pray thee, take heed to thyself until the morning, and abide in a secret place, and hide thyself. Verse 3. And I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where thou art, and I will commune with my father of thee, and what I see that I will tell thee. Verse 4. And Jonathan spake good of David unto Saul his father, and said unto him, Let not the king sin against his servant, against David, because he hath not sinned against thee, and because his works have been to thee ward very good. Verse 5. For he did put his life in his hand, and slew the Philistine, and the Lord wrought a great salvation for all Israel. Thou essayest it, and didst rejoice. Wherefore then wilt thou sin against innocent blood to slay David without a cause? Verse 6. And Saul hearkened unto the voice of Jonathan. And Saul sware, As the Lord liveth, he shall not be slain. Verse 7. And Jonathan called David, and Jonathan showed him all those things. And Jonathan brought David to Saul, and he was in his presence as in times past. Verse 8. And there was war again. And David went out and fought with the Philistines, and slew them with a great slaughter, and they fled from him. Verse 9. And the evil spirit from the Lord was upon Saul, as he sat in his house with his javelin in his hand. And David played with his hand. Verse 10. And Saul sought to smite David even to the wall with the javelin. But he slipped away out of Saul's presence, and he smote the javelin into the wall. And David fled and escaped that night. Verse 11. Saul also sent messengers unto David's house to watch him, and to slay him in the morning. And Michal David's wife told him, saying, If thou save not thy life tonight, tomorrow thou shalt be slain. Verse 12. So Michal let David down through a window, and he went and fled and escaped. Verse 13. And Michal took an image, and laid it in the bed, and put a pillow of goat's hair for his bolster, and covered it with a cloth. Verse 14. And when Saul sent messengers to take David, she said, He is sick. Verse 15. And Saul sent the messengers again to see David, saying, Bring him up to me in the bed, that I may slay him. Verse 16. And when the messengers were come in, behold, there was an image in the bed with a pillow of goat's hair for his bolster. Verse 17. And Saul said unto Michal, Why hast thou deceived me so, and sent away mine enemy, that he is escaped? And Michal answered Saul, He said unto me, Let me go, why should I kill thee? Verse 18. So David fled and escaped, and came to Samuel to Ramah, and told him all that Saul had done to him. And he and Samuel went and dwelt in Naioth. Verse 19. And it was told Saul, saying, Behold, David is at Naioth in Ramah. Verse 20. And Saul sent messengers to take David. And when they saw the company of the prophets prophesying, and Samuel standing as appointed over them, the Spirit of God was upon the messengers of Saul, and they also prophesied. Verse 21. And when it was told Saul, he sent other messengers, and they prophesied likewise. And Saul sent messengers again the third time, and they prophesied also. Verse 22. Then went he also to Ramah, and came to a great well that is in Sechu. And he asked and said, Where are Samuel and David? And one said, Behold, they be at Naioth in Ramah. Verse 23. And he went thither to Naioth in Ramah, and the Spirit of God was upon him also. And he went on and prophesied, until he came to Naioth in Ramah. Verse 24. And he stripped off his clothes also, and prophesied before Samuel in like manner, and lay down naked all that day and all that night. Wherefore they say, Is Saul also among the prophets?
Chapter 20.
Verse 1. And David fled from Naioth in Ramah, and came and said before Jonathan, What have I done? What is mine iniquity? And what is my sin before thy father, that he seeketh my life? Verse 2. And he said unto him, God forbid, Thou shalt not die. Behold, my father will do nothing either great or small, but that he will show it me. And why should my father hide this thing from me? It is not so. Verse 3. And David sware moreover, and said, Thy father certainly knoweth that I have found grace in thine eyes. And he saith, Let not Jonathan know this, lest he be grieved. But truly as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, there is but a step between me and death. Verse 4. Then said Jonathan unto David, Whatsoever thy soul desireth, I will even do it for thee. Verse 5. And David said unto Jonathan, Behold, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to sit with the king at meat. But let me go, that I may hide myself in the field unto the third day at even. Verse 6. If thy father at all miss me, then say, David earnestly asked leave of me, that he might run to Bethlehem his city, for there is a yearly sacrifice there for all the family. Verse 7. If he say thus, it is well. Thy servant shall have peace. But if he be very wroth, then be sure that evil is determined by him. Verse 8. Therefore thou shalt deal kindly with thy servant, for thou hast brought thy servant into a covenant of the Lord with thee. Notwithstanding, if there be in me iniquity, slay me thyself, for why shouldest thou bring me to thy father? Verse 9. And Jonathan said, Far be it from thee, for if I knew certainly that evil were determined by my father to come upon thee, then would not I tell it thee? Verse 10. Then said David to Jonathan, Who shall tell me? Or what if thy father answer thee roughly? Verse 11. And Jonathan said unto David, Come, and let us go out into the field. And they went out both of them into the field. Verse 12. And Jonathan said unto David, O Lord God of Israel, when I have sounded my father about tomorrow any time, or the third day, and behold, if there be good toward David, and I then send not unto thee, and show it thee. Verse 13. The Lord do so, and much more to Jonathan. But if it please my father to do thee evil, then I will show it thee, and send thee away, that thou mayest go in peace. And the Lord be with thee, as he hath been with my father. Verse 14. And thou shalt not only while yet I live show me the kindness of the Lord, that I die not. Verse 15. But also thou shalt not cut off thy kindness from my house forever. No, not when the Lord hath cut off the enemies of David every one from the face of the earth. Verse 16. So Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, Let the Lord even require it at the hand of David's enemies. Verse 17. And Jonathan caused David to swear again, because he loved him, for he loved him as he loved his own soul. Verse 18. Then Jonathan said to David, Tomorrow is the new moon, and thou shalt be missed, because thy seat will be empty. Verse 19. And when thou hast stayed 3 days, then thou shalt go down quickly, and come to the place where thou didst hide thyself when the business was in hand, and shalt remain by the stone easel. Verse 20. And I will shoot 3 arrows on the side thereof, as though I shot at a mark. Verse 21. And behold, I will send a lad, saying, Go, find out the arrows. If I expressly say unto the lad, Behold, the arrows are on this side of thee, take them. Then come thou, for there is peace to thee, and no hurt, as the Lord liveth. Verse 22. But if I say thus unto the young man, Behold, the arrows are beyond thee, go thy way, for the Lord hath sent thee away. Verse 23. And as touching the matter which thou and I have spoken of, behold, the Lord be between thee and me forever. Verse 24. So David hid himself in the field. And when the new moon was come, the king sat him down to eat meat. Verse 25. And the king sat upon his seat as at other times, even upon a seat by the wall. And Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side. and David's place was empty. Verse 26. Nevertheless Saul spake not anything that day, for he thought, something hath befallen him, he is not clean, surely he is not clean. Verse 27. And it came to pass on the morrow, which was the 2nd day of the month, that David's place was empty. And Saul said unto Jonathan his son, Wherefore cometh not the son of Jesse to meat, neither yesterday, nor today? Verse 28. And Jonathan answered Saul, David earnestly asked leave of me to go to Bethlehem. Verse 29. And he said, Let me go, I pray thee, for our family hath a sacrifice in the city, and my brother he hath commanded me to be there. And now, if I have found favor in thine eyes, let me get away, I pray thee, and see my brethren. Therefore he cometh not unto the king's table. Verse 30. Then Saul's anger was kindled against Jonathan, and he said unto him, Thou son of the perverse rebellious woman, do not I know that thou hast chosen the son of Jesse to thine own confusion, and unto the confusion of thy mother's nakedness? Verse 31. For as long as the son of Jesse liveth upon the ground, thou shalt not be established, nor thy kingdom. Wherefore now send and fetch him unto me, for he shall surely die. Verse 32. And Jonathan answered Saul his father, and said unto him, Wherefore shall he be slain? What hath he done? Verse 33. And Saul cast a javelin at him to smite him, whereby Jonathan knew that it was determined of his father to slay David. Verse 34. So Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger, and did eat no meat the 2nd day of the month. For he was grieved for David, because his father had done him shame. Verse 35. And it came to pass in the morning that Jonathan went out into the field at the time appointed with David, and a little lad with him. Verse 36. And he said unto his lad, Run, find out now the arrows which I shoot. And as the lad ran, he shot an arrow beyond him. Verse 37. And when the lad was come to the place of the arrow which Jonathan had shot, Jonathan cried after the lad, and said, Is not the arrow beyond thee? Verse 38. And Jonathan cried after the lad, Make speed, haste, stay not. And Jonathan's lad gathered up the arrows, and came to his master. Verse 39. But the lad knew not anything, only Jonathan and David knew the matter. Verse 40. And Jonathan gave his artillery unto his lad, and said unto him, Go, carry them to the city. Verse 41. And as soon as the lad was gone, David arose out of a place toward the south, and fell on his face to the ground, and bowed himself 3 times. And they kissed one another, and wept one with another, until David exceeded. Verse 42. And Jonathan said to David, Go in peace, forasmuch as we have sworn both of us in the name of the Lord, saying, The Lord be between me and thee, and between my seed and thy seed forever. And he arose and departed, and Jonathan went into the city.
Chapter 21.
Verse 1. Then came David to Nob to Ahimelech the priest. And Ahimelech was afraid at the meeting of David, and said unto him, Why art thou alone, and no man with thee? Verse 2. And David said unto Ahimelech the priest, The king hath commanded me a business, and hath said unto me, Let no man know anything of the business whereabout I send thee, and what I have commanded thee, and I have appointed my servants to such and such a place. Verse 3. Now therefore, what is under thine hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread in mine hand, or what there is present. Verse 4. And the priest answered David, and said, There is no common bread under mine hand, but there is hallowed bread, if the young men have kept themselves at least from women. Verse 5. And David answered the priest, and said unto him, Of a truth women have been kept from us about these 3 days, since I came out, and the vessels of the young men are holy, and the bread is in a manner common, yea, though it were sanctified this day in the vessel. Verse 6. So the priest gave him hallowed bread. For there was no bread there but the shewbread that was taken from before the Lord to put hot bread in the day when it was taken away. Verse 7. Now a certain man of the servants of Saul was there that day, detained before the Lord, and his name was Doeg an Edomite, the chiefest of the herdmen that belonged to Saul. Verse 8. And David said unto Ahimelech, And is there not here under thine hand spear or sword? For I have neither brought my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business required haste. Verse 9. And the priest said, The sword of Goliath the Philistine, whom thou slewest in the valley of Elah. Behold, it is here wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If thou wilt take that, take it. For there is no other save that here. And David said, There is none like that. Give it me. Verse 10, And David arose and fled that day for fear of Saul, and went to Achish the king of Gath. Verse 11, And the servants of Achish said unto him, Is not this David the king of the land? Did they not sing one to another of him in dances, saying, Saul hath slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s? Verse 12, And David laid up these words in his heart, and was sore afraid of Achish the king of Gath. Verse 13, And he changed his behavior before them, and feigned himself mad in their hands, and scrabbled on the doors of the gate, and let his spittle fall down upon his beard. Verse 14, Then said Achish unto his servants, Lo, ye see the man is mad. Wherefore then have ye brought him to me? Verse 15, Have I need of mad men that ye have brought this fellow to play the madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house?
Chapter 22.
Verse 1, David therefore departed thence, and escaped to the cave Adullam. And when his brethren and all his father's house heard it, they went down thither to him. Verse 2, And every one that was in distress, and every one that was in debt, and every one that was discontented, gathered themselves unto him, and he became a captain over them. And there were with him about 400 men. Verse 3, And David went thence to Mizpeh of Moab. And he said unto the king of Moab, Let my father and my mother, I pray thee, come forth, and be with you, till I know what God will do for me. Verse 4, And he brought them before the king of Moab, and they dwelt with him all the while that David was in the hold. Verse 5, And the prophet Gad said unto David, Abide not in the hold. Depart, and get thee into the land of Judah. Then David departed, and came into the forest of Hereth. Verse 6, When Saul heard that David was discovered, and the men that were with him, now Saul abode in Gibeah under a tree in Ramah, having his spear in his hand, and all his servants were